who wants to weigh in on a number of things, including the Gang of Eight immigration bill. Senator, welcome. It's great to have you here, sir.
Rush, it's great to be with you. Thank you for your clarion voice for liberty every single day.
Thank you, sir. We had a great interview with Senator Cruz in the Limbaugh letter not long ago, so I have spoken to him on a previous occasion. And, sir, you're the real deal. You're fearless. You're a freshman. You're acting like you've been there 3 terms.
Well, as you know, a lot of Americans are fed up. They're fed up with Democrats, and they're fed up with Republicans. They're fed up with politicians in Washington who don't stand for anything. And it's how we've gotten in this mess. It's how we've gotten $17 trillion in debt. And if we keep doing business as usual, it's how we're going to pass yet another amnesty bill that doesn't fix the problem. And I think Americans are really fed up with that, and we need to stand up and stop it.
Would you explain to people why this is amnesty? Because Congressman Ryan says he'll debate anybody that says it's amnesty, tell them it's not. The gang says it's not amnesty. They say it's a pathway out of the shadows into citizenship. But you call it amnesty. Why is it amnesty?
This Gang of Eight bill is a disaster. It is the exact same thing we saw in 1986. The last big immigration reform was 1986, and the federal government told the American people, we're going to grant amnesty for the 3 million people who are here illegally. And in exchange for that, we're actually going to secure the borders, we're going to solve illegal immigration, the problem's going to go away. Now, we saw what happened. The amnesty happened, the borders never got secured, and now 3 decades later, instead of 3 million people, it's 11 million people.
Is it 11 or is it, do we really know how many it is?
We don't know. I mean, the estimates vary, 11 million, 12 million. We don't have an exact number. But it is 3 to 4 times bigger than what it was in 1986, and we're hearing the exact same empty promises. What the Gang of Eight bill does is it grants legalization now. It takes everyone who's here illegally and says, you're legal. And then, just like 1986, it promises sometime in the future, trust us, wink, wink, we'll secure the border. Now, I don't think the American people are that foolish. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And this is, if this bill is enacted, it will make the problem worse. If this bill is enacted in another decade or two, we're going to be back here not with 11 million, but with 20 million or 30 million people here illegally. And this is a broken system. I think what Americans want is fix the problem, stop playing political games, actually secure the border, and make a legal immigration system that works.
Senator, you've been obviously observing and commenting on political life in America for a long time. You've been in the Senate now for 6 months. Could you explain to me and people in this audience, why do the Democrats want this, and why do the Republicans who support this want it?
Well, the Democrats want this for pure politics. Chuck Schumer was very candid in the Senate Judiciary Committee when he said, if there is no citizenship, there can be no reform. This is all about their endeavor. They want to grant amnesty, and they hope to get a lot more Democratic voters, or they want this to be voted down and use it as a political issue in 2014 and 2016. On the Republican side, sadly, a lot of the support of it is political as well. You know, after 2012, all of the Washington political consultants and all the mainstream media came to Republicans and said, you've got to do better with Hispanics, and the way to do better with Hispanics is to embrace amnesty. And look, a lot of Republicans in Washington were scared. Now, I got to tell you, I think that political argument is complete nonsense. If you look at the last time we enacted amnesty, 1986, the next election was 1988. The Republican share of the Hispanic vote went down. It is not the case. Hispanics are not these single-issue, monolithic voters. As you know, my dad was an immigrant from Cuba with nothing, and many Hispanics believe in rule of law, and you've got a bunch of Republican longtime office holders in Washington who are scared and listening to the consultants. Let me tell you an interesting poll number. In Texas, Rush, we polled Hispanic voters in Texas and asked them, number one, do you support more border security? 68% of Hispanic voters in Texas support more border security. But the second question is even more revealing. Hispanic voters, we asked, do you support a pathway to citizenship or work permits that do not allow citizenship? and a plurality, 46% of Hispanic voters in Texas supported a work permit without citizenship, and only 35% supported a pathway to citizenship. This is a crock that is being sold to Republican politicians that they can just buy off Hispanics, and frankly, it's offensive, but it's being sold as pure politics.
We're talking to Senator Ted Cruz from Texas about the Gang of Eights immigration bill. Senator Graham was on TV Sunday, basically said that we need to do this, just as you said, to get back in the good graces of the Hispanic community. And I think you're right. The consultants are telling Republicans that, you can tell somebody anything. The fact they believe this is what's frightening to me, because where does this stop, Senator? If, for example, we got to get back in the good graces of Hispanics, therefore we have to support amnesty and throw out what we believe, then what's next for abortion? What's next for gay marriage? What's next for anything that we disagree with the Democrats on? Well, the gays don't like you Republicans, and you'd better sign on to gay marriage or you're never going to get their support. Well, I mean, it's the same line of thinking, and it has no end to it unless you play it all the way out where the Republican Party ceases to exist.
Rush, you're exactly right. These same consultants advise on every one of those issues that Republicans give up our principles and become Democrats. I'm always amused when the New York Times writes editorials trying to be helpful to Republicans and saying, this is the way Republicans can save themselves. Look, the New York Times disagrees with us. They're entitled to disagree with us, but it's not like we should take their advice.
Well, they don't want to save us.
That's exactly right. They want to destroy us. And this advice, it's interesting. You've got a number of politicians who are listening to it who have not heretofore gotten significant support in the Hispanic community. In my race in Texas is a majority-minority state. Over 40% of the Hispanics in Texas voted for me in the Senate race. And I was very clear in the race from day one in opposing amnesty and supporting border security and in improving legal immigration. I mean, look, there is no more enthusiastic advocate of legal immigration in the U.S. Senate than I am. And that is a message that resonates powerfully in the Hispanic community. Now, it doesn't resonate with the Democratic political operatives, many of whom were on the advocacy groups. It doesn't resonate with the Democrat elected officials who just want to win elections. But with the Hispanic voters, supporting border security, supporting legal immigration, supporting rule of law is a principled position. And I got to tell you, we're in a perilous situation right now, Rush. There are probably 20 Republican senators in the U.S. Senate who are on the fence, who are wobbling on this issue and not sure of how to vote. The proponents of the Gang of Eight are publicly talking about that they think they can get 70 votes in the Senate and then use that to bludgeon the House into adopting this legalization first and never secure the border approach. And so there is something every one of your listeners can do, and the time is now. It is right now this fight will be decided. I would urge every one of your listeners to do two things. Number one, come to a website we formed that is securebordersnow.com, securebordersnow.com. and sign a national petition.
Okay, that website is now officially shut down for a while.
Excellent. But number two, every one of your listeners, I would encourage them, pick up the phone and call your senator and call your House member.
Does that really work on something like this?
It works tremendously. It is amazing what hearing from the grassroots can do. The reason President Obama's gun control proposals were killed, his proposals to undermine the Second Amendment, is because hundreds of thousands of Americans began slamming the phone lines, and all of the senators that were leaning towards support it suddenly said, holy cow, the folks back home don't like this. I mean, Washington, D.C. is a bubble, and there is nothing more powerful than the conservative grassroots when we are engaged and letting our voice be heard.
Senator, I've got to take a break, but I know when we talked that we allotted time for you for the first segment, but if you want to continue, we've got time here. I just have to take a brief break. If you do, I'm not trying to pressure you. I don't know what your schedule is, but I would love to get your take on the CBO report on this, if you have time.
I am happy to visit further.
Okay, we'll be right back after this with Senator Ted Cruz from Texas.